Cary Herzberg, and this is the Myopia Mindset. This is your weekly check-in for all things motivation, education, and inspiration on your path to success with myopia management. I'm very excited about this episode because I have Dr. Zachary Holland and Dr. Joelle Holland on this episode. They are two of the rising stars, part of the new generation that I have been so eager to meet. So Zach and Joelle, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Excited to talk about everything myopia.
Yeah, and I originally found out about you guys at last Vision by Design in 2024, and I was blown away by you guys gave a shared lecture together. I absolutely loved that you both practice in separate locations. You're both doing orthokeratology. You're both myopia management specialists. And I originally started this series of comparing two practices, and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to compare your practices? Because I think that would be a very fascinating journey for the audience to go on. Before we get started, let's just do housekeeping. If anybody wants to get in touch with either of you, how can they do so on the internet?
Yeah, one of the easiest ways to get in touch with me is probably sending me an email to my work email, which is just drholland@cecofmedina.com, cecofmedina.com. That's usually the quickest way to get a hold of me. I'm awful with LinkedIn, so don't try that. Truthfully, I could text messages are super easy to get a hold of me as well. And I have no problem giving out my cell phone. I give it out to all my patients anyways. So it's 248-302-1775. Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. And Zach?
Yeah, my email is really long. So just, text me and you'll probably get a quicker response. 515-577-3219. Just tell me who you are and we can schedule a time to chat. I do that pretty regularly with students or ODs who are trying to implement specialty lens nuance within their practice. So yeah, totally content talking after hours, especially if we can help.
Fantastic. And I already love this about the two of you. We haven't met officially in person, so I'm overjoyed to hear both of you, say this because it's a shining example of our community. Everybody is willing to help and lend their expertise and open up the culture and the community that we all have together. So I am super excited. And audience, if you love what we're doing here at the Myopia Mindset, please consider becoming a paid supporter of the podcast. You'll get early episodes. You'll get bonus content. You can do so at myopiamindset.com. Okay, let's start with an introduction to both of you. I'm going to start with Zach because if I'm remembering this correctly from the lecture that you guys did at VBD, Zach, you said that you do myopia management primarily to enable your lifestyle. You don't want to be chained to the office. You want to be able to spend time, as I imagine both of you do, want to spend time with your family, want to engage in your recreational activities, get on with your life. And I was blown away by this factor of the new generation because I grew up in my parents' practice. We worked until 10 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We were open all day on Saturdays. We worked all the time. And it represents this dynamic shift in the way the new generation is doing myopia management. So we'll start with Zach, then we'll go to you, Joelle. Tell us about yourself, what makes you unique, and tell us a little bit about your practice.
Yeah, Joelle and myself would definitely tell you I am chained to the practice, but I'm learning to start to let go. I graduated in 2015. We have fourth year externs at the practice, so I was an extern at my current practice after I graduated and didn't match with the residency that I wanted. My previous boss and my mentor at the time offered me a position at her office, so I started 3 days a week there and then supplemented with private practice, small town private practice, a couple days a week. And then Joelle and I also paid down our student loans really quickly. So we did a lot of weekends working. But then in 2020, my then boss moved out of state and sold me the practice. And so I went from 0% owner to 100% owner overnight during COVID. And so you can imagine that was a steep learning curve. The practice is, we actually do quite a bit more keratoconus than we do myopia control. So I fit probably 3-to-1 scleral lenses over myopia control patients, but we still have a few hundred myopia control patients within the practice. And so, like I said, we have fourth year externs, generally between 2 and 4 every rotation. And the practice is really just built around specialty. We really try not to do very much primary care. We're hidden. We're in a specialty building. And yeah, if I could get away from primary care optometry, that's kind of my main goal. But recently hired an OD as an associate, so she's been with us for a year. So trying to feed more of her desire to be in the practice, and then I'm dialing back. So now I currently do 3 days worth of patient care in the practice.
Gotcha. Awesome. And Joelle, you are a change agent with the Myopia Collective. So definitely tell us about that. But same question for you. Tell us about yourself, what makes you unique, and tell us all about your practice.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2016 from ICO. So I think it's always kind of funny that Zach and we met in school, and we were trained under like all the same stuff. I didn't do any sort of residency or anything either. But I think, and if you were at that lecture at VBD, the whole thing was like, why do we do things basically globally the same, but also very different? And I would never do things like he does, and he would do things that I do. So I love that we are in different practices. Our marriage works really well that way. So we bounce things off of each other, and especially that when he has students and I have like weird questions or something, I love like being able to lean on him for that type of stuff. But I am an associate optometrist at a practice about maybe like 20 minutes away from Zach's practice. So we are like relatively close too. We're just outside of the Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis. And so a lot of times we'll get referrals and they're like, oh, well, there's another Dr. Holland. And like, what does that do? Like, why are you guys doing the same thing? And so we can get to that later, but that's a fun conversation to have. But yeah, I'm an associate optometrist. I have been since I started. It's just myself and Dr. Gina Wesley, who owns the practice. And we are a family practice. And I love primary care. And I love myopia control. And I love dry eyes. And so my practice is about, I'd say like 50%, 50% primary care. And then I'd say like 25% dry eye, 25% myopia control. And I really love it that way. I love the balance. I love always bopping back and forth between all sorts of different things. Last year, and it's just coming up on its like 1 year. But yeah, I was coined the myopia change agent of Minnesota. And I thought that was really unique, just something different that Cooper Vision and the AOA were starting to do. And I loved that they were trying to build awareness around myopia management. A lot of people talk about it, but I feel like no one really knows where to start. And I feel like this was a really great opportunity to just kind of get your toes wet and for me to learn a little bit more too. And I love like the legislative side of things that the AOA is trying to do, maybe not specifically with myopia management, but just with like eye care in general and like learning a little bit more about that. Zach and I are relatively like involved with the legislative stuff that we do here in Minnesota as well. So that's kind of a neat thing to bring in. And I loved how a lot of the change agents were like new docs. Like, I think I was like one of the older ones and I graduated in 16. So, which I loved because I was like, all these people are so eager. Some did a ton of it. Some did a little bit of it. But you could tell that there was like a hunger for it. And I think that hunger where Zach, what you heard from Zach with like gaining a little bit of financial freedom. I also found that in myopia management. I find that with dry eye as well. When I joined the practice, Zach and I had $660,000 of student loan debt, which honestly sounds like a ton, and it was a ton, but like now I'm hearing how much school costs and I'm like, holy smokes, like this is like, it's going to sound like nothing pretty soon. But we paid it off in like 56 months, and it was super difficult, and we worked really hard. But I'm on commission, and of course Zach's on commission, but like I'm on commission at my practice as an associate. And I quickly understood that the more money I bring into the practice, the more money I bring home, the harder I work. Like that all made a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started finding passion in what I was doing. I loved having these conversations. I loved talking to all these patients about this stuff. And my paycheck was getting bigger. So I was like, this is cool. So I just continued to really just talk about it more. And I mean, I care about the money, but the less I cared about the money, the bigger the conversations got and the more like passionate I got about it. So, yeah, that's like a little bit about me right now. And we've got 3 beautiful kids and another one on the way. And we do it for them. You know, we do it for our time off, and we do it for all sorts of different things. But yeah, we want to teach them work ethic and authenticity and all the things. So yeah, that's why we do what we do.
Awesome. I love it. I love so many different things that both of you said. I want to focus on how you got rolling with myopia management. I'm going to throw it over to Zach. Tell me how that process started, because Joelle, when you mentioned that, a bell went off, for me, that saddled with student debt, the prospect of private practice is not a possibility coming out of school. Getting your feet wet, having to pay off everything that you're dealing with. Myopia management should feel like, a huge obstacle. And I think most, docs coming out of school would not consider myopia management to start tackling, and so I'm very interested to hear how both of you got into myopia management. Zach, how did that process start for you? What kind of obstacles did you face, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, initially, when I joined the practice in 2015, we were doing some Ortho-K, but if you remember back then, there were no toric alignment curves. Like there were very few empirically designed lenses. Like so, it was a completely different world than it is now. My site was not FDA approved, and atropine was around. It was just like we weren't really doing it because not that many people were doing it. So at least in the state of Minnesota, the practice I was a part of was almost a pioneer in myopia control. And now we have many practices that are involved with it. So, I mean, to answer your question, like I kind of got a little bit of a head start. My previous boss had like set this protocol up. It was just kind of evolution of the practice to grow this. But the main key is like we have a process built in place that allows our practice to adopt specialty patients. That's just really intuitive. And because we build our entire practice around specialty patients, it was really easy to transition more and more myopia control patients into the practice. Tomorrow, if 100 patients call me and say, hey, I want to do Ortho-K, my practice can absorb them, not all at once, but we can absorb them all, and it won't completely throw off everything else going on because we have these systems in place that allow for like just an extreme amount of growth and customization. Because if you can remember, all these patients are cash pay. Like you have to develop a system around these patients to make it work. Most practices, their hurdles are they've developed their system around insurance reimbursing low amounts and seeing high volume number of patients and like creating their practice around the rules of insurance. And if you can break free of that, or at least start to break free of that and give yourself an opportunity to spend a longer appointment time with patient and like explaining the process to them, you can talk about dry eye, you can talk about scleral lenses, you can talk about Ortho-K. Like just it opens up so many avenues because you just have the freedom and time to speak with the patient. I think time is the biggest factor that doctors are going to run into as far as implementing this. Fitting an Ortho-K lens, fitting a MiSight, prescribing atropine, like that is not that difficult. There are a lot of webinars, a lot of resources that a lot of places have that can teach you how to do that. But it's just logistically getting the pieces in place to not disrupt the other systems you have within your practice. I think is more on the practice management side. Really, that's such a hurdle.
Right.
One thing I think, Zach, that like I remember because it's interesting living with somebody that like owns a practice. But I remember, maybe this would be something that you could like expand upon, would be when you did absorb all those patients. So there might be practices out there that like have a handful of Ortho-K patients, or like have some, and your fee structure wasn't quite like what you wanted it, and you wanted to spend more time with patients. And I remember you sitting down being like, I have to start charging more, because this is never going to work. I can't spend all this time with these patients. And so, maybe there are some practices out there that are kind of established, but there's a new grad coming in, and there's a new associate coming in, and they're like, this could be huge, but we need to like reevaluate how we're doing this if we want it to actually be profitable. So maybe speak to how you like switch that up. Cause I remember those, like, how am I going to tell everybody we're going to raise prices, or how are we going to do that?
Yeah. Were you undercharging essentially for your services at that point?
Yeah, probably. I mean, just to be clear, Joelle still charges more than I do. But when patients come and see her for a consult and be like, well, why does she charge more? I was like, well, she's the boss. She's the wife.
I'm
like
better.
she does. Yeah, we just have a lot of us. We have different fee, we have a completely different fee structure than they do at Complete Eye Care of Medina. I have established patients and new patients. And so from a not so much transparency, but it's simple for my staff. When patients call, say, "What's the price?" Well, are you new or established? Like there's two options. And so, just from a simplicity standpoint, we've dabbled around with a couple different things. We've dabbled around with having a backup pair of lenses. That works really well for Joelle's clinic. That doesn't work very well at all for mine, so I abandoned that. But my strategy on increasing fees is to not do it annually. My strategy is to do it every 3 to 4 years and make a larger increase. And so when patients return and it's the same price as it was last year, there's less to fight over. I think increasing, let's you increase it $500 this year. Now I have a handful of years that's the same price, where if I increase it $100 every year, patients often deem the like contract or the agreement at the end of the exam as like a contract. And when they see the price goes up, like, whoa, you changed something on our contracts. Like, no, that's just like this year's agreement. And way down the bottom, it has fine print that says we can change the price. Obviously, like McDonald's changes the price of their burgers every year and no one complains about that. But it's just like, I've found we've had more success by doing larger jumps over larger time periods. And then I just have to fight them once every 4 to 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Joelle, you said you said in the exchange, you said you charge more because you're worth it.
I am.
Let's talk about charging because you are worth it. Because I think, that's a message that you both are putting across here, because I have seen so many practices where a doctor doesn't think that they're worth it because they're just starting out, or maybe they don't know as much as they should have, or they don't have a lot of fits under their belt at this point. How did you come to your, pricing strategy without, with everything we just heard from Zach?
Yeah. Well, you go to Supercharge Your Practice one time and like your mind is blown and you're like have a cape on when you leave. No. Truly that's kind of what I did. I mean, Gina sent me to Supercharge Your Practice at Vision by Design with Dr. D, and I've been twice, and he just, like, whatever motivational like juice he drinks, I mean, he just can. I mean, he makes it all click, and he does it in a way that is super authentic and like still very humble, because I don't ever like want to feel like a salesperson that like I feel like I'm not worth it. Like, so I've worked on that. I feel like I've created our protocols and our program and how we check in with patients and my availability and like my authenticity when I'm like, I truly am like excited. Like when we're doing, like, I talk about things in the exam outside of just myopia control. Like, I want to know who you are. I want to know what you love to do. I want to talk about screen time. I want to talk about posture. I want to talk about food. I want to talk about going outside. I want to talk about like all of these things with your children, because I want you parent to know that I like truly care so much about your kid. I want them to know that they are important. I want them to know that they matter. And so it's like, it just fills me up to be able to like have these conversations with kids and their parents, to give these kids the moment to shine, to reward them for getting through their training, to reward them for getting through their 1 month of like wearing lenses, to have a finalization day, to get a gift card, to like, so I'm like fluffy about it. Zach is maybe a little bit more like academic about it, and is like, we are doing this because we are slowing myopia and this is good. And here's your axial length, mom that wants to know all the axial length, like exponential chart. I just love building this like whole theme around everything that we're doing and the gifts and the things and all the fluff. So when I got into it and I went to Supercharge, I was like, this is something that I can really invest in myself day to day. And I can go to work and I can feel super filled up. And I'm not just sitting behind a phoropter and like looking at optic nerves or something, which, okay, I can do that too. But like, I would rather much have these conversations. And so how I got over some of that like imposter syndrome, I think was really just stepping back and like figuring out a protocol that made me not feel like an imposter. Like, what about this how can I put a unique spin on this, that if I was a parent walking in and somebody presented me this plan and was like, here's what we're going to do for your kid all year long. And I'm going to give you my cell phone number and like, you can text me anytime. And what can I do for a parent to be like, whoa, like this is, I care, but this is also something totally different. And when I set some of those things in play and I had like a handful of like really great, just like stories, like really great patient stories and stuff, I feel like I just got more and more reinforced that even though I might not know, and I probably still don't know, like all of the ins and outs of every peripheral curve that Zach could probably name off the top of his head and how to adjust and how to do all these things, I am finding such joy in like building our program and just changing things a lot too. Like our kids we're still getting younger kids, but we're getting a lot of older, like our kids are aging a little bit. So how do we still bring that same magic like into their program that you can get in like the younger kids program? So, that's where I think it's totally personal. Like you have to look at your own program. And if you're like, I charge this much because I know the science and we're going to use the axial length, we're going to use the myo, we're going to use this, and we're going to use all these instruments, then great. Like charge it because you've got the instrumentation to like totally blow everyone's mind and do it all. But if you're like, I've got a topographer and like, that's what I got. Like I got a topographer and like, but you build your program on like all the other stuff. Like what makes you happy? What would make you as a parent be like, I definitely would charge that. I definitely would pay this because I'm getting all these things. And one thing that Zach and I probably differ on is like, yeah, like I don't have to do all that stuff and I could still charge and parents would probably still pay. But there's just a fulfillment on it on my side that I'm like, I wouldn't want to do it any other way. And that's how I kind of got over that imposter syndrome. Cause I still kind of feel like, you go to VBD and you go listen to like all Kate Gifford, like you're like, what in the world? Like this, or like Maria Lou, you're like, I am so this big, but I don't want that to take the fear away from like new people wanting to get into it.
Right.
Cause I feel like I just work in a normal practice. Like I see one patient at a time. I don't have a huge referral source. Like it's word of mouth. It's just batting 500, it's just, you just kind of see them as they come in. You talk about it as they come in. And it's been 9 years and it's like a slow roll. I think we're at like 170 maybe of patients. And I had 0 like 9 years ago. So, there's no like overnight sauce, but it's just a hustle. Like it's just, you keep doing it and you keep pushing through.
I love it. I
would say Joelle is definitely about the experience. She's like bought her patients like twins tickets if they complete the process or like race cars or Lego sets. And like that's the experience you get when you go there. But one thing I think that we would agree upon, and this is an independent, this is not dependent on myopia control, is you have to believe in the technology. Like you can buy an IPL, and if you don't believe in it, it's going to fail in your office. So like whatever you implement, you as a clinician have to buy into. You truly have to believe it works, because whether you're focused on the experience or making the lens fit the best, or just like whatever your focus is, if you believe in it, then you just, the way you speak about it is just going to be so much more high level, and patients are going to connect with it. Patients can tell if you're just doing it to sell them something.
Mm-hmm. And with as Joelle described you, with a more academic approach, does that fit into, is there a different like fitting philosophy between the two of you? Like, is there different demographics of patients? Are there certain patients that one of you will touch and the other one will not, as far as like how you fit? Like, are either like software design or empirical or trial set? Is there a difference in the way that you're fitting lenses?
I don't know. We probably don't talk too much about that. I think our patient population is maybe a little bit different. Primarily because Joelle pulls patients from her primary care practice, where I pull patients based on referral and or word of mouth. And my core population is much more Asian, which in Minneapolis is like a low density population. As far as, I think we fit a lot of the same lens designs, and I don't know, Joelle, we haven't really spoken about that. I bet our fitting philosophy is relatively very similar.
I think, yeah, I definitely think it's similar. It is interesting on our patient populations. I don't like mean to like put demographics into like little buckets or anything, but like Zach sees a lot of Asian patients and he works in an academic setting. So I feel like that parent loves that type of technology, that sort of like research. I think as a student comes in and sees the patient, and then Zach comes in and sees the patient, and then Zach's talking to the student about like like these parents are kind of overhearing like the fitting, like all of the things I don't ever say out loud, because the parent doesn't really need to know all like the intricate little details of the topography or the eccentric value, any of those type of stuff. But he does. And maybe that's a little bit of like how he's built his patient population the way he has. I have a very low, I mean, we're 20 minutes away from each other. Like I have a very low population of Asian patients. I have a ton of Eastern Asian. I have like Indian patients. I have a lot of just Caucasian patients. And I would say like maybe 5% of my population is like Asian patients. So it's really interesting that we like differ so much in like demographics. But I think our fitting philosophy is probably very similar. I am like game for anything. Like after what I've seen, like Mark Cosgrove, like to me, really like expanded my brain a lot on what, like who I can fit. Cause I feel like he was always like not a crazy, like wild, wild West cowboy, but was just kind of like, let's try it. Like, why can't we try it? And so I was like, okay. And so of course, always like managing the patient and making sure I'm watching like all the anatomy. And I have taken a couple patients out, but like, I mean, I've got some -10, -4 still, like some crazy stuff that I feel like I would have never read or like heard anybody talk about, but it works. And so I've done very few like truly topography guided, like wave stuff. Like to me, that's cool, but that in the academic setting a little bit more. Like I don't have the time for that. And I just don't know if I even want to know how all the little balls work and how all that stuff works. I love like empirically fitting. That's probably what I do most of the time. Not that I like need to sit on one company more than the other, but between Euclid and Doctor's Own Design, that's probably what I use the majority of the time. Because their online software is super easy to use. I can just order right on their software. It goes in, a lens shows up at my office, and I'll call for, consultation if I need it. But I love that part of it, especially being in a private practice. I'm like, I don't want to be sitting and like, imagining it up myself. Like that's what we use good lens companies for. So I think our fitting philosophies are really similar, but it is interesting on our like patient demographics are quite different.
Yeah. I mean,
I
grew
think
up
you
in
have
a
to
practice
tailor.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
There was a little bit of overlay there. Sorry. Go ahead, Zach.
I was going to say, I think you want to tailor your program around both your practice and your patient expectations. Like, we haven't said it, but my clinic's name is the Cornea and Contact Lens Institute of Minnesota. And so in practice, when patients show up to come to that practice, they are not exactly expecting a family practice type of environment. And so you just have to meet your patients or build your program in a way that their expectations are met. And I think that that's kind of a really neat dynamic that Joelle and I are both like trained to the same level and can both fit the same complexity of patients, but she does it more within a family practice clinic, where I do it more within a like teaching institution situation.
Love it. Yeah. When it comes to setting expectations with like new Ortho-K wearers, I'm wondering if there's what kind of similarities and differences the two of you have. So, Joelle, how do you set expectations for a new Ortho-K wearer? Like, how do you, because you're drawing them from the family practice. So walk us through that process.
Yeah. So as I'm in a comprehensive routine exam and I'm identifying like a myope, I've tailored this a lot. Like it's so difficult to say, like, how do you have that conversation in the comprehensive exam? Because it truly does depend on like who is sitting in front of you. If you've got a parent or a kid that's like kind of interested about it, I could go on. If I got a parent or a kid that's like, this is their first pair of glasses and you just like blew my brain, I'm not going to get too much into it. But you kind of start to learn your patient just like you do with everything. Like, am I going to tell somebody that their IOP is 22, or am I going to look at other things and not freak somebody else out? So, when I have that conversation, I am truly like looking at them as the person and saying like, how much information do they need? And when we get into that, like true consultation, because I have patients come back for a consultation. This is where something that Zach doesn't. He'll just go right into it there. If the parent is ready and interested about it, I will schedule them back to have them back for a consultation where we'll collect topographies and we'll go through, I'll put lenses on their eye based off of what the fitting set that we have, the spherical Paragon set that I have at the clinic. We'll give them an experience of what that feels like, what they can kind of see, like what it feels like to take them off. And then we go through our leveling form of what it's going to cost. We've got 4 different levels at our clinic, where Zach has just one. And our levels vary upon complexity of like cornea, maybe by like 25%, and then like 75% complexity of human being and parent. So that all factors into there of like what our cost is going to be. And so during that consultation, that is like theatrical in my, like when we do consultations, this is like a big deal. Like this person came back, they understand the gravity of like kind of what's going on, that we need to start talking about this myopia. We need to start controlling what's going on. Here's the problems with it. And then when we get them into that consultation, I am like pumped. I am jazzed. It's like, I just got like stabbed with a steroid. It's like, you're excited. You want them to be excited. And so we give them a sweet experience. And I feel like if they're in the consultation, I mean, I guess my percentage is like 95%, like convert, we'll move into choosing like whatever level that we put them at and starting the program. Because they get that experience. They see how exciting it is. They put the lenses on, they can see the topographies, like they can get that whole experience. So I think getting the patient to the consultation, which can be an art. I mean, we have some brochures, we've got some text message follow-ups. This is all part of kind of like building our program, which I learned a lot at Vision by Design. I mean, or at Supercharge and Vision by Design, because he really does help you kind of line out what that all looks like. But just like Zach said, I mean, tailoring it to your clinic, you kind of have to do that. Like, your processes, your protocols already, how many staff members you have, like that can help with this. It all kind of plays into it. So I do a lot of the heavy lifting with all of that outside of my technician, just taking the initial topographies, and then our another technician training on how to put them in and take them out. But I do all the conversations about money. I talk to them about everything. And that consultation to me is kind of the golden ticket. If I can get them into that, we're in a good spot.
Gotcha. Do you charge for the consultation? Is there part of the fee structure?
I do. So I do charge for the consultation, but I take it off the cost of the therapy if therapy is pursued within 30 days. So it's kind of free. But the parents do, I mean, they're dropping dollars at the front door, committing to coming in and committing to doing it. I don't think I ever didn't charge. I think we talked about it. But I think that was something where I was just like, I think maybe we had a couple no-shows and I was like, what? I was, so excited about this. And then they just don't show up. And I get that. I mean, you're not paying for it. So there's just something in your brain where you're kind of like, well, if I miss it, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're dropping a couple $100s, then we're going to come and we're going to talk about this. And they don't know that it's going to be less like the therapy chart, the global fee, at that time. So they think they're putting that money down and that's just what the consultation is. I do charge.
Gotcha. And Zach, you don't do a consult, you just go right into it during the exam.
Yep. We build enough time, part of every one of our exams, to talk about IPL, Ortho-K, cornea cross-linking, scleral lenses, like anything that we do that's high level. I have time to talk to the patients about. Now, there are some exams where it's like, we have nothing to talk about. It's like, okay, move on. And I just have extra admin time. But it's also just a function of the practice. Like we have students. And so I have to naturally build myself a little bit extra time too. So I don't know if that system works for everybody, but yeah, I'm one of the probably very few people that don't actually do true consultations. We had done outside of it, the patient is referred to me, then we do a consultation. But if it's a existing patient, we just talk about myopia, talk about whatever we need to. It's kind of, I get frustrated when I go to the dentist and they have me come back for something basic. And I was like, but just do it now and like save my time. And I'm very much about efficiency, and my capture rate's probably not as high as Joelle's, but partially because I just give them the facts. A long time ago, I just said, like, this is what I can offer you. Not everyone's interested in it. I'm going to give you the details, and you know what? You're not going to hurt my feelings if you say no, because it's not right for everybody, but I'm going to present it to as many patients that I can in an attempt to capture the highest volume, if you will. And that's where like the experience of Joelle's program really justifies a higher cost, because you're more getting an experience where with me, brass tacks, like we're fitting you with lenses, I'm gonna get you better vision. But to get back to your original question about the experience, one hurdle that I run into, or the expectations, is one hurdle that I run into with parents and kids oftentimes is they will complain about like hazy vision or ghosty vision. And a lot of parents watch the eye chart when we're checking acuity and like, well, they didn't read all the letters in the 20/20 line. And my students are in there checking vision and they come in and tell me like, well, mom is a little upset that they can't get 20/20, all the letters on the 20/20 line. And I remind the student, I was like, well, we have to remind the parents that is our goal to get 20/20 vision? Because if that's the case, we take them out and put them in soft contact lenses and glasses. Or is our goal to get the best myopia control, which is inducing aberrations and distortions in your vision intentionally? And so really just talking about that on the front end with parents and say, what's our main goal? It's myopia control with most of these patients. But then revisiting that at some of the follow-ups to say like, hey, remember when we talked that like myopia control is our main goal here, and we might not get the best vision with this option. There'll be some distortions, like some nighttime driving issues. And so just being clear but reminding the patients of those, that discussion you had, whether at the consult or where at, I think has a lot of clinical value and really kind of troubleshoots some problems and prevents you from running down these rabbit holes that really aren't going to make the patient that much happier, or problems you really have a really difficult time fixing.
I think with the one trick when you're talking about like the chart, I figured out a way on our charts to like take off like the number in the corner that says like 30, 25, 20. And so I literally just put up like 3 vertical letters and have them read it. Especially when it's just the technician in there. I put 3 vertical letters, have them read that with 2 eyes open when the parents are sitting there. And odds are they're going to get down, because they want them to read the chart a couple times. They don't know what it is because there's no number on the chart. It could be 2050, and we're like, great, like you read it down at the bottom. But then when I pull them behind the phoropter and I might like do a manifest, or if I have the lenses on, do an over refraction, then I'm like really tweezing that out. But to set those expectations, I think is huge. I agree with Zach. I feel like we're always trying to, these are therapeutic lenses. These are not like refractive vision lenses. Like our biggest goal is to save you. And we've got this big chart on the back of our door. Like we're saving you from retinal detachments and cataracts and glaucoma. And like, this is our goal. In order to get this goal, we have to wear these therapeutic lenses. And yeah, you're going to wake up with clear vision. But if they start talking about those halos, they start talking about, and I look at what their starting prescription is, if they're coming in at a -5, I'm like, okay, we're probably going to have a few more halos. We're going to have a few more aberrations. I know how this conversation is going to go a little bit differently. For like -2, -1, then I kind of have now where I'm at, I kind of have no problem being like, this vision is going to be sweet. Like this is going to be awesome. I feel like you're going to have awesome vision, and this is going to be, you're going to love it. Because sometimes if you do like amp it up, and especially when they do read the chart, you're like, oh my gosh, like look at your vision. Like, do you remember what you used to be able to see before you like took off your lenses before and you put up like the 2200 or whatever? And they're like, oh my gosh. And even maybe they're only at the 2025, but they still think that they're seeing super well. So yeah, reading your patient is so huge, but setting those expectations they can be challenging in the beginning.
Contact information once again. We'll start with you, Joelle, and then go to Zach.
Yeah, so I'm up at Complete Eye Care of Medina in Medina, Minnesota. Email's good, drholland@cecofmedina.com. Or really my cell is probably the easiest, 248-302-1775. Text message will probably get to me quicker. So just text, name, what's going on, how I can help you.
Awesome. Zach.
Yeah, I'm at the Cornea and Contact Lens Institute of Minnesota. Technically, my email is Dr. Holland, so Dr. Holland at Cornea and Contact Lens Institute.com, and is spelled out A&D. So there's 2 A's in a row there. Just don't forget that. Or you can contact me on my cell is 515-577-3219. So same as Joelle, we'll probably end up chatting. But I'd really encourage all of like the new young fitters, find a mentor, find someone that teaches you, that loves to teach. Reach out to me. I'll help as much as I can. Joelle will give you all the details, the important stuff, but we can work as a team to tag team things, and just find someone that loves teaching and wants to help you.
Awesome. Yeah. And if listener, if you love everything we're doing here at the Myopia Mindset, thank you so much for supporting us and listening to us. If you want to help us advance the mission, you can do so at myopiamindset.com. You will get extended versions of every episode that we do. You'll get a bonus episode every month. It's usually with my dad, Cary Herzberg, one of the Ortho-K pioneers. And you will get your episodes early. And what I like to say is, the cost of which is $12 a month, which is basically the cost of a cup of coffee each and every week. So I like to say, hey, if you would buy me a cup of coffee to have on amazing guests like Zach and Joelle and nerd out about myopia, then please consider supporting the podcast. Myopiamindset.com is how you do so. And we will see you at the next one.